Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And joining me, special guest Sean Faust. Thank you so much for coming on.
Shane, thanks for having me, brother. This is exciting
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah. Love talking about movies. But before we jump in, introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and what you're working on, places that people could check you out.
Well, I was born at a very early age, and matter of fact, I've never been any older than I am now. Although I'm younger when you've listened to this. I'm Sean Faust. I'm a musician, singer-songwriter. I do my own thing. Go to Linktree, Sean Faust Music. You'll find my tunes there. Solo stuff I do is like a mix of like 70s prog, like Russian, yes, but
Mhm.
like with a lot of 90s alternative grunge influence. And then I'm the keyboard player in the nation's longest running Bon Jovi tribute, Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, from New Jersey, rocking wherever the hell we're rocking, jovitribute.com. So those are my big plugs.
Awesome. As a humongous Rush fan with a couple of my albums sitting over here, I'll definitely be checking out some of your music. And also, as a fellow New Jersey boy, do love that Jersey pride. So there
Right
you go. We
on. Nice.
appreciate that. But Sean, let's start it with everybody's favorite question. What's your favorite film?
It's always changing. It's always changing.
Fair.
Right now, I'm gonna say Boogie Nights.
Okay.
I love that Paul Thomas Anderson dude. It's always
Mhm.
between Boogie Nights and Heat, but then it can be like something recent like Sinners or something like The Last Starfighter. It really just depends
Yeah.
on my mood. So, but at the moment, it's Boogie Nights. There's just something so accessible about it for a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, especially. It's very
Yeah.
accessible and it's very just the dialogue in that movie is just
Hmm.
out of this world, and the performances too. How often is Mark Wahlberg putting in a performance like that? There's that, and
Not
there's The
often.
Departed, like, and
Yep.
that's it.
Absolutely. Boogie Nights is such a fantastic film, and I really appreciate how Paul Thomas Anderson can really take any kind of culture or group of people or any kind of setting and really make something so compelling and engrossing about it. Because how many filmmakers can make a film about the porn industry and make it so accessible that so many people would want to watch it and connect with it? And yeah, Mark Wahlberg is great. The ensemble is really impressive,
Oh my
whether
god, yeah.
you're talking about Julian Moore or Burt Reynolds, and love John C. Riley. Love seeing him doing some stuff outside of, goofball comedy and stuff like that. And there are just so many great actors. The needle drops. I don't think Sister Christian has ever been used better
Oh,
anywhere
I mean, that
compared to
movie
Boogie
changed
Nights.
that song. That movie completely changed that song, and I think it might have put Alfred Molina back on the map.
Mhm.
It's probably why he got Spider-Man too. I don't think it's from the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think that
Correct.
his performance in this really was just like, wow, who the hell is this guy? Also, Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane
Yes.
doing the most non-Thomas Jane performance ever and killing it. Thomas
Mhm.
Jane is so criminally underused by
Yep.
Hollywood that I mean, and also Burt Reynolds did not want to do this movie.
No.
And he had a major problem with some line of dialogue towards the end.
Mhm.
And he was like, I don't want to say that, but I don't want to say that. And, every now and then, though, like, I've got to take a director's side. Like, as an actor, even Mark Hamill, like, I like The Last Jedi, but Mark Hamill did not like the script. And he said, but as
Yeah.
an actor, I'm going to do my job. Like, and, Burt Reynolds should have been told, like, but this is the dialogue. This is the way they speak. You have to say this. And it should not have been an argument. But
There's some definitely, especially in those late 90s, early 2000s era, some grumpier aging veterans having some problems with some of the independent film movement directors like PTA or another Anderson, something with Gene Hackman on Royal Tenenbaums and just like bullying Wes Anderson and not taking him seriously. It's just like you're doing your job, and Burt Reynolds did an amazing job.
oh my
So at the
God,
end of the
yeah.
day, he gave such a great performance. It's such a great film, and obviously Heat's another fantastic film from the '90s. Michael Mann was riding high through the '90s into the early
Oh my God,
2000s with
yeah.
some amazing films for sure. And now, shifting gears a little bit though, Sean, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Star Wars, 1977. According to my father, we had seen it 9 times, seven or
There you
nine
go.
times. It was 7 or 9 times. The one I remember the most, I don't know what area of Jersey you're from. I'm in North Jersey,
Hmm.
and there used to be a drive-in in Paramus at the Garden State Plaza when
Okay.
the Garden State Plaza was an outdoor mall.
Hmm.
And so I specifically remember sitting in that giant parking lot in front of that giant screen. I mean, I was two, so my memory can only be so vivid. But it's pretty much I remember them all in the cockpit of the Millennium
Hmm.
Falcon. That's what I remember the most about that movie. But Star Wars, what's your earliest?
The earliest one that I know that I went to was the Indian in the Cupboard, but the one that I remember the most was probably Space Jam. That was a movie that I distinctly remember, but I feel like all of us have that kind of like Star Wars moment because as an 8-year-old, I was so jazzed about the Phantom Menace and going to see that because I had all the other film, like the original trilogy on. They were the special edition VHS tapes that came out in the 90s. And, you know, I could only imagine what the experiencing that original Star Wars like in a theater or like
Oh
at a
man,
drive-in for the first time. And you helped that make that you and your family made help make that huge box office success with going 9 times.
it was. I mean, it was something else. I remember the thing I remember most about the original trilogy, though, was how big of a deal Jedi was, and people were lined up around blocks, even in Paramus at the what was that? The Cineplex Odeon Route 410plex, the Stanley Warner Theater. People were just lined up. I mean, I got to see, I guess, a Saturday or Sunday morning matinee, and we were lucky to get in. But man, what a huge deal that back then, before social media and our addiction to screens, people like there were big deals and they would stick with us. Like now it's like
Yeah.
big blockbuster movie, and then next week now your focus is going to go onto this new big blockbuster movie. And
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, man, I thought Superman was great and I thought Fantastic Four was great, but have a
Yeah.
little space between them. And as much as I bitch about it, you look at a summer like 1984 and 1989 where how many huge movies came out, where but it's still a matter of digesting it and having the
Yeah.
time. And man, Jedi was something else at the time. That was such a huge deal.
Well, and I distinctly remember because 2015, I was past college at that point when I was in grad school when Force Awakens came out, and I even remember the year before when they dropped that trailer and just the buzz around that. And to be frank, it only been what 10 years since Revenge of the Sith came out
Yeah.
at that point, and just the amount of people that were at the movie theater trying to go see Force Awakens and everything. And I remember going with a group of like 12 people, including my brother, who was dressed head to toe as Kylo Ren, except for the mask because you weren't allowed to wear it in the movie theater. And him doing lightsaber battles with other people dressed up in the middle of like the AMC Hamilton lobby, which was like this big lobby, and just remembering those kinds of moments. Star Wars has had such a special impact on so many generations of people, and that's an awesome shared experience for people. So
Oh,
you know
definitely. Definitely.
it's you don't really get that as much, and to your point, it's just like there's so many movies out there, there's so many things, and they don't stick around in theaters. Like unless you're going every day, you're not going to be able to see a movie 9 times because it's going to be out of theaters in a couple weeks because it's the next batch and the next batch of everything. So it's just a different time, and being able to appreciate those moments that felt so big for sure.
Oh yeah.
Now, thinking about a couple of favorite questions, do you have a particular favorite genre of movies?
I I'm into everything except I mean anime does it just doesn't do it for me. I mean
Mhm.
like it's I mean I've seen Grave of the Fireflies, just one of the most depressing films I've ever watched.
Yep.
But there's just something about the way the mouths move and people talk. It just I'm not into animation that much, but I can
Mhm.
appreciate it. And every now and then I will watch something, but now that I've said my least favorite, I'm into really everything. I don't care about genre. I care more about story
Yeah.
and performance. Sometimes I'll sacrifice performance for story, or sometimes I'll sacrifice story for performance. The Room, anybody? But I like indie flicks. I like something that
Mhm.
refuses to confine itself to one thing. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I mean, as I mentioned before with Boogie Nights or Heat, I like a good crime thriller or a solid comedy. But at the end of the day, I want something that it's kind of like, I guess, because of the way I am with my music. Like I don't think it's fair to make any artist adhere to one specific thing. And if you step out of that boundary, you've done something wrong. And with independent film, they get away with that. They don't have
Yeah.
to stick to something. If you look at, I don't know if you've seen The Life of Chuck this year, but
Yeah.
that movie could not exist except in the independent category because people would be like, well, this scene here, this really wouldn't happen. It's like, that's because you're not paying attention to what's happening in the story, pal.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I love about indie film is that there's more thought involved. There's more what if. Even a simple flick like Jonah Hill's mid 90s,
Yeah.
that's a seriously great indie flick. And then this year, of course, the big indie flick that everybody's talking about lately is Weapons, which
Mm.
I mean, that's have you seen it yet? Because
Yes.
that
Wild.
punchline, I felt odd because there are two scenes in the movie that I mean, one was just like it's fan service because I was a kid when a certain movie came out that the junkie freaked out over. But
Yeah.
the end, I was the only person laughing at first, and I was like, wait, why am I the only person laughing? Is this like bad, and I'm laughing because it's bad, or is nobody understanding why this is hysterical?
I lucked out. The early screening that I got to go to, there's like a press section, but then there's a whole rest of the theater filled of people who got to get an early access to it. I had an amazing crowd for Weapons. They
Awesome.
were they were cheering at the point in the movie, and it just felt like such a great just collective catharsis by the end of that movie, which was really needed after everything you go through. But like the movie's hilarious.
Oh my
On
god,
top
yeah.
of, and that's the thing too, very true that like you couldn't get away with doing something that like this is about children being like going missing and stuff like that. The biggest twist of Weapons is it's hilarious.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
being able to play around with that. And it was interesting because I was just writing an article about clerks for my website because one, it watching that when I was in college was like the opening of the door to like independent film for me. And something about especially that new independent movement in the 90s where it's just like filmmakers were making movies without bounds. Because the thing is, when you don't have that much money attached to it, you don't have to worry about hitting four quadrants and doing this and doing that and keeping it safe and being able to explore. And you can break out of genre and play around with it. And so interesting. And also, I wrote about how Jersey Pride,
Well, of course.
Kevin Smith, but like the idea of, I love seeing a film that isn't stuck in a box because I love when a movie can subvert my expectations and challenge me and offer something new and fresh and different. Weapons, going back to that example, just I had no idea what to expect because they did such a great job of marketing with very little anything being revealed about it. And this has become a big conversation. Like it was heavily influenced by Paul Thomas Anderson and film from like the independent movement of film with like Magnolia and stuff like that, and very obvious homages to Magnolia.
Oh my god, tons.
Look,
Tons. But I
look at
feel like we're
look.
also spoiling the movie for those who haven't seen Weapons yet by saying that it's even got one laugh in it. I think like it's a big
Hmm,
spoiler to say how funny that movie is, but that movie is really funny. And like you said, like that independent movement of make the movie you want to tell. Look at Ari Aster always makes the movie he wants to make. He always tells the story he wants to tell.
I
And
cannot imagine that man taking notes for anything,
oh my god,
like ever.
that guy needs to speak to somebody. He really does. He loves cults, and every single movie. all four
Something.
movies so far have involved some form of cultism, and I love him for that. Beau is Afraid might be my favorite cult film of his, although I mean Midsommar is the best, but he's another guy that just I'm making the movie I want to, and I hope I like Barbarian, but I found it very overrated,
Hmm.
and but it also took me so long to see it. I love seeing something when it's like opening morning, first showing, and I'm the kind of person I want to know nothing. If I see a trailer, cool. If
Yep.
I don't see a trailer and just something like Sinners, I love Michael B. Jordan. I'll see anything with Michael B. Jordan, and I like the Black Panther movies. I don't think that they're Oscar. Angela Bassett was Oscar worthy in the last one, but like
Yep.
these are good movies, solid storytelling. But like Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan together, look at Creed. Look at Creed 2. These guys together are always doing something goldy. You can tell that they
Yep.
enjoy working together. Even he showed up in Black Panther too.
Hmm.
And so I was just like, oh yeah, I think it's like a monster movie. I didn't know what it was. I had no clue. I saw one trailer like months before, and I was like, yeah, I'll check that out. Halfway through that movie, I was crying because I mean, there's that scene,
Yeah.
and as a musician, I was like, oh my god, Ryan Coogler completely understands what it's like to get lost in the performance. Holy shit! And pardon my
Hmm.
French. And it just that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably within 5 minutes of walking out of the theater. And the last time that happened was Gran Torino,
Hmm.
a completely opposite kind of movie. But it's that whole thing of going in blind and weapons for me, going in blind to that, just thinking, oh, it's going to be some horror movie. But I really like from Ozark. Now I can't remember her name.
Oh, Julia Garner.
Julia Garner,
Yeah.
and of course Josh Brolin. That whole cast was great. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
going into something completely blind. So like in the indie, you can watch every single trailer for an indie flick and still know nothing about it.
Hmm.
So
And that's how you're supposed to make a trailer. But
hell yes.
but shifting gears into getting behind the camera, and like I know we were talking a little bit, but who are some of your favorite filmmakers?
So you mentioned before Kevin Smith. So
Yep.
I Kevin Smith has done, I don't want to say he's done wrong once, but there's only one movie of his that I've seen so far that I was like, did you really need to remake Clerks with your daughter and her best friend? Like it was okay.
Yoga
Um
hosers. Sorry,
that would be
sorry,
the
not
one.
sorry.
It was okay. But it just, I mean, for Kevin Smith, like I go into any flick with zero expectations. I used to always be, oh my God, it'll have this, it'll have that, blah, blah, blah. And I always left disappointed. And like I'd waste weeks or months, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So now it's just like, it's going to be what it's going to be. I'm taking my ego, I'm putting it in check. So when people are like, I didn't like that because it didn't do this, well, did the story call for it to do that? How about you get out of your own head and like or dislike the movie for what it is, not what you expected it to be? So with Kevin Smith, though, he set the bar really high with Clerks. And then he makes Chasing Amy and sets the bar really, really high. And then I'm one of the few people, I think Clerks 2 is one of the greatest sequels ever made. And it's
Yep.
also one of the sweetest friendship stories ever put to
Hmm.
film. And I love Clerks 3 a lot. Clerks 3 is, you could tell that Brian and Rosario Dawson love working together. Their
Yeah.
chemistry is so obvious. But Kevin Smith and Paul Thomas Anderson are kind of, and even Michael Mann are go tos. But I mean, there's also Spielberg. Like you
Yeah.
can't. Spielberg is one of those guys. I was telling my father, like there are those filmmakers who are the filmmakers, like a Scorsese,
Yep.
and then there's Spielberg, who is a filmmaker's filmmaker, but he also makes flicks, or he makes The Fablemans, which is just I want to make this movie for me about
Yeah.
me, or he just makes a movie that you want to rip your eyes out after watching it and never watch it again. That would be Schindler's List. What a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
And I find Ray Fiennes waking up and taking pop shots was like, wow, like so Mr. Spielberg, you even have your own brand of comedy in a movie like this? What the hell is the matter with you? But it's I mean, it's also to show what an a-hole Ray Fiennes character is in that.
Yeah.
But these are some directors I love, but right now there are I think four directors that I'll go see a movie sight unseen. It's Mike Flanagan,
Hmm.
because I
Yep.
loved Doctor Sleep. I loved Hush.
Hmm.
I mean, Hush. So when I saw Doctor
Yeah.
Sleep was happening, I was like, Oh yeah, and I still haven't seen the theatrical version of Doctor Sleep. I've only seen that 3 hour version, and it's just so magnificent, magnificent. But Mike Flanagan, Jordan Peele, Ryan Coogler, and Ari Aster. I'll just go sight unseen. I don't need to see a trailer because even like I said before, like I like the Black Panther movies, but they're a bit overrated. But you can see the love,
Mm.
you can
Yeah.
see just the attention to detail and the care. And now, I mean, post Sinners, like no offense, Mr. Kugler, but I don't know if you're ever going to top that or equal it. But I'm really excited to see what you do next because
Yeah.
I'm still all in. And I think Ari Aster is insane in just the most beautiful way. And Jordan Peele is Jordan Peele.
Mhm.
Need I
I,
say more?
yeah, we're in a very special time, especially for, oddly enough, for like horror filmmakers with Flanagan and Astor and Jordan Peele, and I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers too. His are a, his are very specific kinds of movies though. And
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but his specific kinds of movies are his Vikings movie. It's very specific about he's very specific to the era of the movie
yeah,
he's making. He's making a movie in the Viking era. They're going to speak like that, and it's going to
yep,
look like that. It's going to be dark and muddy like that. Or I haven't seen oh god, just came out Nosferatu. Haven't seen it
Nosferatu.
yet. I'm sure it's perfect. And apparently he's making one about the knights.
I know that's floating around. His next film is a werewolf film that's going
Oh
to be
my
coming
god,
out because, of course, he would.
yeah,
Um, at this point, and I just remember seeing The Witch for the first time and being like, I feel like I'm watching a film from the 1500s if film existed back then,
right. That's his
because
thing.
it's that kind of thing. It's a really special time to be seeing what a lot of filmmakers are doing because there's so many of them, and some of them have found those spaces to be able to like do their thing and without a whole lot of control from elsewhere. And I'm pretty sure Ari Aster is sitting off to the side of every single movie he's making, just laughing because he has the most like twisted, demented sense of humor. And I was like the only person laughing watching Beau is Afraid in a theater full of people, and I'm like,
Oh my god, that movie was hysterical. He does have a thing though
mhm.
about Joaquin's thing. He feels the need to show it a lot, and I don't know how I feel about that. I think he does it to make the audience uncomfortable, to be honest. Um,
Well, and there's certainly some things that you can't unsee from Beau is Afraid, especially in a particular attic. Just
oh,
like,
okay, true, true. But there's also the real doll that I'm kind of curious about
mhm,
because she's one of my favorite actresses too.
yeah. Now, thinking about the transition, thinking about in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite performers?
Michelle Williams will come to
Mm,
mind immediately. I love. I'm a huge Dawson's Creek fan, so
mhm.
this is my intro to her because Species doesn't really count, and I never saw Lassie or was it Lassie she was in? I don't remember. Well, anyway,
I don't.
but Michelle Williams understands each role she takes, and post
Mhm,
Dawson's Creek, she didn't want to make a lot of upbeat stuff. She did some really Wendy and Lucy was heartbreaking. Blue
mhm.
Valentine. I like the
Yeah,
fact that the guy that directed Blue Valentine and Place Beyond the Pines is actually making a comedy. That's blowing my mind.
yeah. I
But
I saw that. I'm like, when the director name popped up, I'm like, wait,
yeah,
what?
yeah, I was
Just
like,
confused.
this looks like it's going to be uplifting and fun. This is not the kind of film you make, sir. And it's also weird that Gosling and Williams aren't in it. But yeah,
Mhm.
she's a perfect actress. She always understands her part in things. And I love the amount of improv. I can't remember that director's name at the moment, but the amount of improv he lets her do, specific or her and Gosling, because there's that scene in Blue Valentine on the Brooklyn Bridge.
It's Derek in France, right? Or I'm not quite exactly sure how to
Yeah.
pronounce it, but yeah, Michelle Williams is an incredible actor, and all the way up to, you brought up the Fablemans earlier, and just her
Oh my
just
God.
letting that all out, and
That
that's a
yeah.
very uncomfortably raw, character to have to portray because everything is just out there in so many uncomfortable ways at times, but also joyous ways sometimes. And I think what Steven Spielberg was able to do and give her the space to do that, she was incredible.
She that might be my favorite performance of hers because it's not as intense as say Take This Waltz or
Mhm.
Blue Valentine or Wendy and
Yeah.
Lucy or even Jen Lindley on Dawson's Creek. That's a great performance, especially that last episode. But something like The Fablemans, where it's just so balanced, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
She like there's that scene where she's dancing in that see-through
Hmm.
dress, and it's just like it's all out there, and it's that's probably the most naked she's ever been, which we know
Hmm.
for a fact is not. But it's just because it was so revealing in that sense of freedom,
Yep.
but also that sense of yes, I am flirting with this other guy. It's just spoiler alert, folks. Sorry,
Yep.
but Fablemans has been out long enough. Yeah, but her performance in every single scene was just like I understand each moment of this just to perfection.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears a little bit, but what's a film that you feel like you could just watch literally every day?
The original 3.5 hour cut of John Wayne's The Alamo, which it's
Nice.
so hard to find on digital. It's the
Hmm.
last time it got released was on VHS, well, laser disc, but my TV is a little more than 480p.
Yeah.
But it was cut down because theaters wanted to have more showings because it was such a success at the time. So it's I think 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that, and that's the DVDs you can find now and all that stuff. But
Mm.
the editing is obvious, and some plot points go away. Some scenes just make zero sense because of the editing, but it was about making that almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's a 2.5 hour Superman 4 out there. I don't need to see it, but apparently it's not as terrible. But the people, not the people, but John Wayne's Alamo, it's just fun. So it's this epic,
Yeah.
like think Return of the King. So it's this 3.5 hour epic flick that's just fun, and everybody on that
Mhm.
set's having a good time. Lawrence Harvey broke his foot when a cannon jumped up, landed on his face. He finishes out the scene perfectly because these are our actors at the time.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a movie. It's just, I mean, granted, the end is still the end, but it's still just a
Yeah.
fun, uplifting watch.
And when you could have like a big epic film that just has so much packed into it to appreciate, that's always something special for sure. Now, thinking about something that I love this question, but what's a film that you connect closely with because it relates to another interest of yours?
I know you saw my answer. So
Hmm.
it's The Beastmaster with Mark Singer and Tanya Roberts and John Amos and Rip Torn
Hmm.
and beautiful, beautiful score by Lee Holdridge. Look, we're not talking high art. This isn't
Yeah.
like cinema, but I love animals. I love working with
Hmm.
animals. I've worked with animals in the past. I mean, I'm very much involved with animal rescue, and just I have this way of connecting with animals. But thankfully, there's no iron scar on my hand to show that. But that's a movie. My father took my brother and I to see The Secret of Nim,
Hmm.
and when it was over, he's like, "Guys, just stay in your seats." And he got up, and about 2 minutes later, came back. He's like, "All right, we're gonna watch the next movie too." And it was The Beastmaster. And
Hmm.
at the time, like it's not, it was rated R at the time, which I think it finally got lowered to PG-13 or PG, I guess.
Hmm.
It's not a, it's, I mean, Tanya Roberts gets more naked in Sheena, which was PG,
Yeah.
than she does in this. And that's really the only, like, the violence isn't ultra violent, but the connection with the animals. I just remember, like, oh my God, I want to be able to do that. So
Hmm.
I'd start, yelling at the birds, like, oh, come over here. Like cats, because, I can't get a tiger and I'm not going to spray paint it black if I do. But and of course, we ended up with ferrets years later. Of course, I called them Kodo and Podo.
Nice.
But there was just something about that connection to animals with a beautiful film score and just some like sword and sorcery stuff, which we don't really get enough of anymore, or at least we don't get enough of. That's just plain simple fun. Everything's got to be epic and dramatic and drawn. Give me something fun like the Beastmaster, where he's just hanging out with animals. And
I I feel like Game of Thrones really changed fantasy a lot because a lot of fantasy now is just like people are trying to chase Game of Thrones and
yeah, yeah.
overly serious, and you don't get a whole lot of just like fun campy fantasy flicks that we got so many of in the 80s.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like I didn't love the movie, but I had a fun time. They remade Red Sonja, and it was only in theaters one day
Yeah, I
last week.
almost went on Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's not great, but like it's fun watching a fantasy flick like that because we don't get a whole lot of those when, they probably came out all the time in the 80s, like Red Sonja did.
Oh,
Um,
Willow.
well, yeah, and Willow and all kinds of stuff like that. But it's also very interesting that you brought up your connection with animals and also that you saw it right after Secret of Nim.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because like Secret of Nim, one of the first animal rights uh like
I mean,
movies,
Watership
honestly.
Down.
That
I
well,
mean,
like at least with like Secret of Nim's dealing with like putting animals and testing on them and all
true.
kinds
That's a
of
good
stuff
point.
like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
which is very interesting, but also listen to some very fantastical places for sure.
It
But no,
does.
I love animals too, and being able to that's always why it's like so hard where it's just like you see there's going to be a prominent animal in a movie and you're just hoping it's like
Dude.
nothing better happened to them.
After the trauma, and I've got to call it trauma. After the traumatizing events of me watching Guardians Volume 3, which I
Yep.
beautiful movie and the story was told so well. I can never watch it again. Forever Sky, by the way, was such a beautiful way of saying Rainbow Bridge. I
Mhm.
James Gunn is really good at like making me concerned about the animals. So going into Superman, I was like, man, you kill this dog. I'm just done with you, man. I'm completely the whole movie. I'm worried about Crypto, and then I'm sure you've seen Superman.
Yeah,
There's
that's fine.
when he says he's going to turn himself in and why, I was just like, oh, dude, you just completely redeemed yourself for torturing Rocket for 2.5 hours, bro.
Yep.
Because like but that's such a Superman thing to do anyway. But
Mhm.
still, like I I always worry about that. Like that movie Sisu. I loved the trailer for that because at the end of the trailer, don't worry, the dog survives. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go see this awesome movie
There we
now.
go. Thank you.
I need to know, like, the guy that directed the raid, I can't remember his name at the moment. He had a movie about cults. I love cults, by the way, on
Mhm.
Netflix, and I started watching it, and then they kill a lamb like right on the boat right in the beginning. It's pretty gruesome. So I like immediately like, let me look this up. Oh, so there's animal murder and torture. And well, I'm not watching this. I want to see RRR so bad, but
Mhm.
I had to look it up because I mean, like that line's prominent in the poster, and like, yeah, there's fighting with animals and animals get killed. Well, I'm not watching this movie. I'm sorry. It's just I know I'm limiting myself, but I don't. I'm I'm a little more than an empath when it comes to animals. Like I feel it. Like I don't know how to describe it, and I know it sounds psychotic, which we'll get to, I'm sure, but I feel them. Like, so
Mhm.
I can look at their faces and be like, oh my God, you're so nervous. Oh, you're so happy. Like, and like, well, why are you scared? Let me make you less scared. And like, they're feeling scared. So I'm feeling scared for them feeling scared. And like, I've got to like go somewhere into my mental arsenal of like, let's make you not scared.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Now, Sean, what's a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
well, Dar because of the animals thing,
Mhm.
but, and here's where we're going to go. Nolan's Joker just makes perfect sense to me. Mine is murdering, just I'm not getting my way, so I'm going to murder somebody until you give me my way. Like not the murder, and I'm not, not the scars, but just that simple. It's the speech that he gives in the hospital
Mhm.
about how everything is according to plan. That if I tell you tomorrow a bunch of gangbangers are going to shoot each other, nobody blinks an eye, or a truck full of soldiers is going to blow up because it's just all part of the plan. It's how things go. But if one little thing like this is going to happen, everybody loses their minds, and it's like I connect with that so much. And I know it's Joker. He's Joker. I get it. And I'm not saying I'm like psychotic or anything
Mhm.
like that. But after working in animal rescue for a certain amount of time, my faith in humanity is at nil.
Mhm.
It's like you can meet like you're an awesome individual. You're a good person. And like George Carlin would say, you get a person, and you just see the light in their eyes, but all of a sudden you get a group of people, and it all becomes about being part of the herd, and the individuality kind of dies.
Yep.
And I'm very much about the individuality. I don't care about fitting into some box or into somebody else's idea of what I should be or who I should be. And I think, you know, Joker went about it in a pretty violent way, which I wouldn't. But you say, hey, all right, Sean, you've got to save one of these two lives. Now, one is an animal and one is a human being. Who am I saving?
Animal.
Who is the innocent one? I mean, that's the bottom line.
Well, and it's very interesting. And one of the things that I love about Batman and his group of villains is there's so many different types of characters that, you know, people are jokers aren't walking around like people dressed as clowns being murderous and crime bosses and stuff like that. But the characters draw on something very specific and very human traits. And it's very interesting because I got a lot of flack from people because I liked Bane more as a villain in The Dark Knight Rises more than the Joker. I'll acknowledge The Dark Knight's a better put together film, and the Joker and Heath Ledger's performance is incredible. But there's something about which is very interesting and opposite from you, something that is so meticulously put together and the control of it all. Because I am somebody that if you put me in a situation and turn me up to 11, the problem is everything's going to be in control because that's just the kind of person that I am. And it'll be interesting because I'm a huge fan of Rush and their last album, Clockwork Angels, the whole entire conflicts between the watchmaker, who is everything needs to be the to the T, and the anarchist, who's just like people need to be let loose and be able to do whatever whenever. And then obviously the hero of this rock opera is in the center and stuck between there. And it's like really sad to say, and I don't know if I want to admit this, but like if I'm going to be either of them, I'm probably going to be the watchmaker
Oh,
because
wow. That's interesting. I'm sure you've read the book too, right?
yes,
Great,
and but
great read. Yeah.
it's just because it's like when you translate that into real life, I'm the parent friend. I'm the one who makes all the plans and organizes everything
Oh,
and makes sure
okay.
like it's just that natural like I like having control of things and it makes me feel better. But those are the interesting things where you can take a antagonist and turn a very human trait up to 11 and see what that would look like because that's the conflict between Joker and Batman. Because Batman is control. And like Dark Knight Returns is what happens when Batman gets way too far into control and basically becomes a fascist leader of Gotham.
Victory
And
has defeated you.
yep. And him having to go toe to toe with Superman because the government's like somebody needs to take out Batman at this point. And those kinds of things, it's very interesting. So I guess just to reinforce, it's interesting seeing antagonists where you see like elements of yourself in them, and that's what makes them so interesting.
Well, that's what makes a good villain, I think, is the fact that you
Mhm.
can relate. I think Rennick, for the most part,
Yes,
is just he wants Sammy because he wants to connect with his ancestors. That's it. It's not
yes.
about like taking over humanity and kill. He even says it. I just want Sammy. I just like your music. That's all I want. That's it. And it's a very human thing to want to speak to dead relatives.
Mm. Well, and how they expand that, like, there's parallels to some of their journeys too, and it's very specific that he's like an Irish
Mm-hmm.
vampire for sure in part of the story. And to your point, exactly, and that is what makes a great villain, is when we can see pieces of ourselves. Like it's fun seeing like mustache twirling wow, villain sometimes. It depends on the story you're telling. But the more compelling and memorable ones are the ones that hit on something deeply human that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable that you connect with them in some shape or form for sure. Now, what's a film that you love, Sean, that surprises people?
The Greatest Showman or The Music Man with Robert Preston. I
Mhm.
love these movies, man. Hey, Michelle Williams again. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that, but I went to see it because it was a movie with Michelle Williams, and it looked like it wasn't something depressing. I had no idea what I was getting into. I'd never seen a
Mm.
trailer. All
Yep.
I knew was that Hugh Jackman and Michelle Williams were in a flick together. Yeah, let me go see this. And the first time I saw it, I was not liking the songs at all. I was like, what
Mhm.
the hell is going on here? And then um, there was one song I was like, all right, well, this is tolerable. But there was something about that movie. Like, I wasn't, it's not that I had expectations, but like the music started, I was like, what is this like modern sounding crap?
Yeah.
And I went and saw it again because something about it was just sticking with me. And it
Mm.
was one of those things like, I'm not liking the songs, but I'm loving everything else. Like I think the cinematography in that movie is beautiful. I think the
Mhm.
set design is gorgeous. And I mean, I don't know if it's what's the hostage thing? Helsinki, not Helsinki.
The
As in Helsinki, Sweden. Stockholm syndrome.
syndrome. Yep.
Well, I mean, that second watch, I was like, these are actually very, very good songs. And then that third theater watch, I saw that three times in the theater. I was like, what the hell did I hate? But
Yeah.
and then I
It's
went to
one
a
of those.
sing along version and nobody was singing
Yes.
along. I was like, what the hell's going on, kids? Sing along.
It's interesting because I remember I took my mom to go see that when that came out, and that was such an interesting film because it came out in December. It really underperformed that first weekend, and people were like, "Well, Greatest Showman dead on arrival," and then it just made more money. Like it made more money its second weekend, and then more its third weekend than the last one. It's just like that, like struck a chord with people, and it just kept growing in anticipation. Then more and more people went back and saw it, and I still listen to the songs from The Greatest Showman.
That's such a good
Like,
soundtrack.
and the thing is, it's a tight hour and 40-minute movie too, which isn't necessarily the case with most musicals, for sure. And just throwing that on, like I could even barely be paying attention to like the story or anything and just eating up the music performances and everything. And it was an interesting choice having very modern sounding music that injected into this period piece, but it's such an experience. And I'm a humongous Hugh Jackman fan. So when I saw that, I'm like, I'll go see whatever movie he's doing. So even Pan. Um,
I
and
skipped that one.
but like this was something where it's just like it's one of those just crawls up into your head and just won't go.
Like
And
that soundtrack, it's one of those things like that and the soundtrack for Anna and the Apocalypse. Don't get too used to them because when you watch the movie, you're like, wait a second, they just cut out that verse, especially at the end of Anna and the Apocalypse. There's a complete verse by the Game of Thrones teacher cut out, but
yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that movie because I remember going to see that with like three people in the theater when that was in theaters, and I'm like, it's rocked. I
yeah,
love this, and I still listen to the songs too all the
it
time.
doesn't need to be Christmas for me to throw on that CD. I
No,
threw it on yesterday while I was getting stuff done, as a matter of fact.
there
But
you
those
go.
two soundtracks, you get so used to it. And I've got to, with The Greatest Showman, I got to thank Trey Anastasio for, I guess, quote unquote, discovering Kiala Settle
Yeah.
because my God, what a performance! Now I got to see Hands on a Hard Body, which I haven't yet.
Mhm.
But the other thing about Kiala Settle, and it will definitely, I'm babbling, I'm sure, but she was in Wicked, but she didn't sing. And I was like, wait, what? The second I saw her, I was like, oh, that's Kiala Settle.
Yeah.
That's great. Like Kiala Settle's going to sing. See, there, that's what happens when you go in with expectations. I saw her, I
Mhm.
was expecting singing, and I was disappointed. Great movie, by the way.
Maybe Wicked for Good.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. It's like she was cast for the sequel.
Yeah,
Just you
right.
wait. But Sean, my last question for you is what do you love most about movies?
Escapism.
Hmm.
Right. once again, it's a mood thing, but for the most
Yep.
escapism, I just want to relax and just sometimes I just want to shut my brain off and watch Krull for the billionth time or the Beastmaster, like going to the 80s, Remo Williams, brother. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
like, I want a good story, I want good writing, good directing, good acting, but sometimes I don't need that.
Hmm.
Sometimes a really great film score, like I mentioned Beastmaster. I'm going to mention Beastmaster Part 2.
Hmm.
This is not a good movie. It's fun and watchable. I mean, Robert Zadar's in it for like 2 seconds. So if you're a huge Samurai Cop fan, now you get more Robert Zadar. I'm sorry, Tango and Cash. Um, but I love Robert Folk's score for that movie. I can watch that movie for Robert Folk's score, and I love that Robert Folk got to do something that wasn't a Police Academy score.
Hmm.
So he's got Beastmaster 2 and Toy Soldiers.
There
So
you go.
I'm a film score nerd. So like, you know what? I'm gonna retract everything and say, give me a solid film score, and then I'll see what else I like about everything else.
Well, and I was just having this conversation because I can excuse a lot of things for a musical, especially because if you hit me with the music and, do I think the film Nine has the most interesting and engaging story throughout? No, it's just a bunch of choppy vignettes of an Italian director deal with all the women in his life. But damn, those musical performances throughout the movie, like I listen to Be Italian from Fergie or Cinema Italiano from Kate Hudson, and just like those songs just like ignite something. And it's just like I could appreciate, and film scores as well. Like if you put a great score into something, like sometimes I'm like, this movie didn't deserve this. Like this score should be in something better.
You ever watch something where like this, like, and it's very rare, but it happens. But the score is a character, and like the first time it happened was Max Steiner's score for King Kong in
Mhm.
30, whatever the hell, 33, I think. But the score becomes part of the film. It's a character in the film. Tron Legacy, especially like Daft
Yeah.
Punk knew their assignment. I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross when they
Yes.
score a flick. I'm pretty sure Trent Reznor understands his assignment for Tron Ares. I
Oh,
had,
I'm excited for Nine Inch Nails doing the score for that so much.
I mean, I don't need to see the movie. I mean, of course, I'm going to see it. It's Tron,
Yeah.
but like the fact that like they've got Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross just under the moniker of Nine Inch Nails doing the
Yeah.
score for a Tron movie. Yeah, I mean, like this is just a match made in heaven. But when a character is a score, like James Gunn, thank you so much for bringing back John Williams' theme because it's even
Yep.
in the Superman, it's right there in the name. Like
Hmm.
John Williams will write the name of the film into his theme, Indiana Jones. Like it's right there. So I need something that will envelop me. I love the movie The Postman, and
Hmm.
I know a lot of people don't. But what got me into it was my brother had rented it, was watching it. I was just like, what? I didn't know what he was watching. I was just hearing
Yeah.
this gorgeous James Newton Howard score. I'm like, what is this? Made me
Well,
watch it.
James Newton Howard has been sad, especially working with M. Night Shyamalan. Some of the scores for even Shyamalan's worst films are like this last Airbender movie did not deserve the
Right.
James Newton Howard wrote for this. And I'm a big Ennio Morricone fan, and just the personality that he injected into any movie, and even some of the most random movies for sure. And I'm a huge Mad Max fan, if anyone can't tell from all the branding, all the stuff that I do. But like that Junkie XL score for Fury Road would not be the same
I did
without
not.
that.
So that's a movie I need to watch. I did not like the movie, but I
Mhm.
loved that score. I my favorite score is still Maurice Jarre's Thunderdome score. I love that score.
Mhm.
Thunderdome to me is just like it's a really solid two-parter Twilight Zone. Like these two things just kind of come
Yeah,
together. It's because it's completely different
yeah,
stories.
yep.
But I love that score. But I love that Junkie XL score from Fury Road.
I have Thunderdome the album on vinyl, and the music's great for sure. That was honestly one of the most interesting parts of Thunderdome was that score that like really understood exactly what was going
Oh
for.
my god, dude! And it's like he
Mhm.
ripped himself off for Enemy Mine. It's like no, like like just let Thunderdome be its own beautiful thing, please, because that
Mm,
score you felt lost in that's another one where the score is the character because like he's lost in
yeah,
the desert and you're feeling that when the kids find him and it's triumphant, you're feeling it.
yeah.
You mentioned Ennio Morricone before, the Untouchables score. Al Capone's like when they get to the hotel, it's like
Yeah.
it's out of the blue, it's out of left field, and it does not fit with anything else in that score, but it fits perfectly for that
Oh,
hotel.
each of the obviously the title sequence,
Oh yeah.
you and just like all of that, and then the for the for the actual
Yeah,
group of them, and just the themes that he creates for the different characters in that. Just oh my god, I could be listening to film scores all day. But
same.
Sean, how I always like to wrap up my show is have my guests ask me a question. So, what would you
Okay.
like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Okay. Because you're talking about film scores.
Hmm.
Are you a James Bond fan?
Yes.
Okay. Eric Serra's score for GoldenEye. Everybody knows that this is not a
Hmm.
very good James Bond score. No, no shade to Eric Serra. He's done some good work in the
Hmm.
past. I almost said the professional. Oh yeah, yeah, Leon the professional.
Yeah.
If you could get John Barry out of retirement, or if if David Arnold starts a film early, I know I'm going with something really lame and easy, but John Barry comes out of retirement to do GoldenEye, or David Arnold gets one movie early. What would you go with?
It's interesting because there's certainly some scenes in GoldenEye where that score just it's so weird. Like the car chase
I was about to say the car chase in the beginning.
is the weirdest.
Yeah.
I I do appreciate which the musical element that he incorporated into Leon the Professional too, where it's just like that, and like that weird sound felt very like so like I don't know why it felt fit so well with like the Soviet aspects and like all the stone and St. Petersburg and stuff like that. Just a side note there, I've watched GoldenEye and played that game a lot because
Everybody
like
loves that game. That game is part of everybody. Every '90s kid, you're a '90s kid. Every '90s
yep,
kid loves that game.
Pierce Brosnan is has a special place in my heart because he was my James Bond
All
growing
right,
up.
so Pierce Brosnan
But,
is a great James Bond in a very weak series.
yep,
He got
and
one
it's such
great
a
movie.
shame,
He got
such
The
a
World Is
shame.
Not Enough, and the other three. Like I'm not a GoldenEye is okay. It's watchable. I understand why people like it. It's not Martin Campbell's best Bond flick. We know that it's Casino Royale.
Yeah.
It's
Um, I don't know. Like, I would say early for Arnold because I don't know if GoldenEye really fits the tone of a lot of what like the early Bond movies really felt like. I think that was
but
a big shifting point for
But
a
keep this
lot.
in mind too. Barry's last Bond score is The Living Daylights, where he incorporated some modern synthesizer
Mhm,
technology into it, and that score works perfectly.
mhm.
But do you think 8 years later he could have pulled that off again?
I don't know. And it's very interesting because up until well now I guess that was the biggest gap between Bond movies was License to Kill
The
and
GoldenEye,
then
yeah.
to Goldeneye, and a lot changed, which also like the fall of the Soviet Union, so like then they had to deal with that.
Damn, I missed the
I,
Cold War.
that's such a it should be a terrible line, but it's such a perfect line.
Because Judy Dench just is the queen of delivery.
Yep. Now I it would have been interesting. I if Barry could have done something very modern and really took in the 90s with it. I just feel like GoldenEye on was such a big shift away. And it took until what was probably Spectre for them to like really kind of bring things back to more of a traditional Bond
Yeah.
feel on purpose,
No, no,
which
no, I know.
also,
Yeah, yeah. It's Daniel Craig and a Roger Moore flick.
yep, oh my God. And of course, bringing Adele in for the theme for Skyfall. There's I appreciate that you brought up world is not I the world is not enough because I feel like that movie gets way too much flack from people. I think that's a great Bond movie.
That's the best Brosnan flick, in my opinion.
I
And it's followed by one of the worst Bond flicks ever.
Yeah, Die Another
And
Day.
that was, and World Is Not Enough was the longest pre-title sequence until No Time to Die, which I'm one of the few people that loves that movie, and that ending makes perfect sense. And a lot of people are like, I hate No Time to Die because the end. Did you enjoy everything up to that?
I really love No Time to Die. I thought
It's
it was
so good.
really good. And then World is Not Enough, Garbage. Their theme is amazing.
What a beautiful song. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I'm just like, that is top tier Bond theme because it captures like the old essence of like a Bond theme, but it feels modern for like a film that came out in 1999, which it was so great. And yes, Pierce Brosnan deserved better.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I still want
Especially
him to be a
better than
villain in a Bond movie. Like, just I want Tarantino to make Live and Let Die as a timepiece, do the book, and let let Pierce Brosnan be one of the villains. Obviously, he can't be Mr. Big for very obvious reasons, but
very obvious.
he could be one of the villains.
I That would be really cool actually, because like seeing Pierce Brosnan doing some of the stuff that he's doing now, especially on was it Mobland?
Mobland, yeah.
It's just like he could be a right bastard. And
Oh,
I
look at
would
Black Bag. He was
yeah,
perfect for Black
him too.
Bag.
Yep. He's in his Bond villain era.
Oh yeah,
Doing evil espionage and mafia stuff. But Sean, this was a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on so much and talking some movies with me.
Shane, thank you so much for having me, man.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.